for only together will we as a people realize our dream. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, the Alphas.
Alpha Phi Alpha. The most honorable men of the 17th House of Alpha bring you to the moments you've been waiting for. We will not yield our title of greatness to any man, for we have learned the eternal secret of power, greatness, and superiority in all things. It's Alpha, baby.
True spirit of fraternity rule our hearts, guide our thoughts, and control our lives, so that we may become through thee servants of all. Amen.
When I first came to Boston, I came to go to law school. That was in the 40s. I graduated from Boston University Law School in 1948 and hung up my shingle in Roxbury, Massachusetts, where I practiced law. And I got to know a lot of Alpha Phi Alpha men. I had been the president of Beta Chapter, the Eastern Vice President before the war. And after the war, coming into Boston, knowing about Sigma and its illustrious history, I associated with the Sigma Chapter. And so I have the fondest memories of Sigma Chapter and the brothers who were serving not only the chapter, but were serving the community and Boston and Massachusetts as a whole.
Sigma Chapter, the 17th House of Alpha, was founded on November 28, 1915, by brothers from other chapters who were studying in and around the city of Boston. Dr. Charles Harris Wesley, in his book Alpha Phi Alpha, A Development in College Life, says the chapter was organized on that day by men who were members of other chapters enrolled at Boston University, Tufts College, MIT, Suffolk Law School, Northeastern University, and Harvard University. These distinguished Sigma Chapter founders were Bishop Matthew Walker Clair, Jr., Iota Chapter; Earl Harrison Crampton, Beta Chapter; James Daniel McClendon, Jr., Beta Chapter; Dr. Franklin Augustus Myers, Nu Chapter; Aiken Augustus Pope, Zeta Chapter; Alford Hilton Tavernier, Beta Chapter; and Lorenzo Dow Turner, Beta Chapter. These founders of the Sigma Chapter, much like the 7 jewels who founded the fraternity, came from strong backgrounds. 3 have historical significance to the fraternity. Matthew Walker Clair, Jr. was a charter member of the Iota Chapter, Syracuse, 1910. Aiken Augustus Pope was a member of the same Zeta Chapter initiation class at Yale in 1913 that included celebrated historian Dr. Charles Harris Wesley. And Franklin Augustus Myers, the only Sigma Chapter founder pictured in the Alpha Phi Alpha history book, was among the charter members of Nu Chapter, Lincoln University, in 1912. These 7 men recently graduated from Lincoln University, Pennsylvania, Yale University, New Haven, Connecticut, and Howard University, Washington, D.C. They had each arrived in Boston, a city that has long been a bastion for the advancement of the Negro. On November 28, 1915, they banded together to charter the Sigma Chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Incorporated. Since being established in 1915, Sigma Chapter has had a very rich tradition and proud heritage. Unlike any other chapter in Alpha Phi Alpha, it has the distinction of being the only chapter to be chartered during the tenure of a jewel as general president, Jewel Henry A. Callis. Over the past 90 years, Sigma has given birth to notable alpha men who have shaped the lives of Americans across the United States. Perhaps the most notable son of Sigma is slain civil rights activist Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., May 13, 1952. Though Dr. King is the most recognized son, Sigma has noble sons who have matured to become Masons, congressmen, chief executive officers, prominent businessmen, musicians, scholars, and professionals.
And Sigma was blessed because it had all these wonderful graduates, men who had gone to some of the finest universities in the country, which were here right in Massachusetts, and men who were ambitious, and who had set individual goals, and who were giving back to the community through the medium of Alpha Phi Alpha. And Alpha Phi Alpha has always had a dear spot in my heart because it's where I began. My political life began in Alpha Phi Alpha. And it was often said that if you could make it in Alpha Phi Alpha politics, you could make it anywhere because the depth of politics in Alpha Phi Alpha. And it produced people in all walks of life. I mean, Cliff Wharton, for example, the president of one of the biggest universities in the Midwest, and I went there to speak. I was so proud of him and what he had accomplished. I think I spoke to a commencement group of something like 30,000, 40,000 people, if you can imagine that many in the stadium. I think of Ned Goodine, of course, who was here, and what he accomplished at Harvard and what he accomplished in Massachusetts, and being one of the first judges here, the judge of the Superior Court. I think of Julian Rainey in those days, one of the erstwhile lawyers. Shag Taylor, for example, who used to hold court and was the big Democratic leader in Massachusetts in those days. And I could go on and on with numbers of brothers and those who had given so much to Alpha Phi Alpha, but had given so much to Boston itself.
Sons of Sigma have continued to hold the light of Alpha high by excelling in each and every undertaking they pursue. Whether a basketball tournament, a go-to-high school, a go-to-college campaign, or a party walk, the brothers of Sigma Chapter have always had a penchant for success.
These were the movers and the shakers. These were the people who, by God's gift or whatever, had been able to enjoy higher education at its height, at its highest. And these were the people that were doing things. These were the leaders of the community. These were the leaders of Boston. These were the people who interfaced with the white power hierarchy here. And these were the people who were effective and got things accomplished. And they were being done by Alpha Phi Alpha men. And so it was a pleasure for me to be associated with them and to watch them. I remember when Martin Luther King, for example, was initiated into Alpha Phi Alpha. You know, they didn't know at that time that he was going to be the Martin Luther King that he became in this world. A Nobel Peace Prize winner and all the rest of it. But he was a young man of great promise, and he fulfilled that promise. I remember meeting with him when I was in the Senate, and we met in Geneva, Switzerland, and we talked about the fact that, you know, we had won the fight for moving from the back of the bus to the front of the bus and being able to sit at a drugstore counter and have a hot dog and a Coca-Cola. And those were hard battles then, but they were easy compared to the battles we were facing after that. That was an economic battle, the battle for economic opportunity, the battle for economic equality, and that battle still goes on. That was a hard battle. Martin knew that, and this conference, a meeting I had with him in Switzerland, was just about a year before his tragic death when he was killed. But Martin Luther King was an example of the kind of leadership that Alpha Phi Alpha instilled in young men. And he became one of the role models, but he had his own role models in Alpha Phi Alpha at that time, because men like Charles Wesley, and I could go on, Belford Lawson, those men inspired young men. And Alpha Phi Alpha has always stood for that sort of inspired leadership, that dynamic, energetic, and effective leadership, whatever field it may be in. So Alpha Phi Alpha to me is foremost among men, and I think it is to those who have been privileged to become Alpha Phi Alpha men, and those who have had to work with us in the history of this country.
Somebody help me. Somebody help me. Oh, help me, please. Oh, help me, please. I want to be an alpha. I want to be an alpha. And I'm down on my knee. And I'm down on my knee. I want to I want to wear the black and gold. The black and gold. Even when I am tired and old. I'm tired and old. Alpha to me. Alpha to me is the light of day. Is the light of day, serving its purpose, serving its purpose in every way, in every way. So why don't you help me? So why don't you help me? Oh, help me, please. Oh, I want to be an alpha. I want to be